In fact, this is one of the most touching, moving places in Gwangju, because this was the place where the victims of May uprising were simply dumped into the graves. So the bodies were brought here by trash car. Then without any due process, they were simply buried here. After some time, this place became a destination of pilgrimage of young people. They wanted to come here, and then they encouraged themselves to be more active for democracy and justice. So the military government found that it was wrong for them to put the victims in one place. So they wanted to move them out of this place by paying the bereaved families. But the families refused to get any money, and then the body stayed here, and this place became still as a symbol of democracy movement. I was not here in Gwangju in 1980. I came here in 1981, but I was not able to come here because I was afraid to face the tragedy of young people, so I did not come. But from 1982, I began to come here because many foreign reporters came to visit Gwangju, and they wanted to see this place. So whenever I came here with other people to show, I found young people from all around Korea. I have never missed one. Almost all the time, whenever I came, some people came here to pay tribute to the victims here. But in 1990s, after civilian government came into power, the people began to ask the government to establish new cemetery for the victims as a way of recovering honor of the victims. So the government decided to establish a new cemetery. So the bodies they were moved to the new cemetery 1997. Now after the vacated this cemetery, this cemetery began to accommodate the other democracy activists. So one of the most important person would be the LEE Han-yeol, the very handsome looking guy. He was killed by grenade that directly hit right here. So after his death, in Seoul, more than 1 million people took to the street. Because of that demonstration, the military government gave in, and then they accepted change of the constitution. So he made really the history different in 1987. We name it June uprising. So many other people were buried here, like activists, even though the May Cemetery only accommodated those involved in May 18 movement. Other activists wanted to be buried here, their families or their friends. That's why, beginning with LEE Han-yeol, other victims came here to be buried. So some people, like the girl over there, Park Sun-young, the girl's picture over there, she burnt herself to ask for democracy. So many young people immolated themselves for justice and democracy. Here, they got angry, they immolated themselves. So they terrorized not other people, but on themselves to get attention of the other people. But harming other people antagonize general public. But here, they wanted to buy the heart of the people. That's why they did not terrorize the general public. that seems to be one of the reasons that the Korean democracy became so much successful, beginning from Gwangju uprising. Thank you. Let's go to the new cemetery. When there takes place a large-scale state violence, the victims or people who suffered from the violence, usually they ask for five different requests. For example, the first one is truth finding. Then what kind of atrocities, what kind of crimes the government committed, truth finding, and then prosecution. Those culprits who committed the crimes, and then recovery of the honor, because the victims lost their honor, their names. They are considered criminals, even though the government, the power holders are criminals. So the recovering the honor. Another is reparation, because they lost their lives, or they got a lot of physical damages. So reparation or compensation, and then recovery of the honor as well. So the national cemetery was not given naturally, it was given because the people strongly asked for it. Some people think the old cemetery is more moving. It shows the reality of May uprising. Some people like that way, but this new establishment of May Cemetery seems to be also important because it gives back the honor to the victims. The victims died, they did not die for nothing. They died for something, for the democracy and the justice of the nation or of the world as well. So the large-scale cemetery like this shows how great their contribution has been. So in this regard, the cemetery makes good sense. I will give you more explanation right in front of the tombs. This cemetery comprises different functions. Tombs, it can accommodate more than 700. So it accommodates the victims at that time, like around 150, plus 70 missing people. We do not know how many missing, but we, through a thorough investigation, we accept whether somebody is missing or not. Even though we believe that she or she's missing, if there is no concrete evidence, the government don't accept and then don't compensate. So there are probably more than 1,000 family members who still do not know where their beloved ones were or are. So the reason of that thoroughness of the investigation was due to the attack from the other side of the people. So the government investigation is very much strict to accept anybody as a victim or as a missing person. I brought one picture. In fact, this is from old cemetery when she was over there. So the reason that I pointed out that lady is because she was shot to death while she was pregnant. So there was no reason at all for her to be killed. She was waiting for her husband from her house. Then one soldier found her, and then that guy just shot at her for fun. So even though we believe that the military is created to protect the people, even if they are not properly contained by proper power, they can be a rogue. they can be robbers, they can be killers. So at that time, the military government released the soldiers like dogs, then killed people, to kill people. And then she was one of the victims at that time. Very pretty young lady got killed. Not only that kind of lady, but also like a young, very young boy, even toddler. They were killed by the military forces. So it is quite important to have a democratic government, the government which is accountable to the people. Otherwise, they can become violent, so we will become sufferers from state violence. I said that the National Cemetery was important or is important because to this place many people visit, not only from Korea but from outside of Korea. Even recently the US ambassador, Mr. Harris, came here to pay tribute to the victims, and then he also personally visited Yoon Sang-won. I talked about Yoon Sang-won, the spokesperson of the citizen army, and then he paid tribute personally to Yoon Sang-won as well. So because of the setting, it gives back the honor to the victims as well as to the survivors. We can see that what they did was good for us as well. Without this commemoration or without this kind of memorial places, we do not properly accept their sacrifice. So this cemetery comprises tombs and then shrine over there. So there are the kind of name tag of the souls and then photos of them. And then the other side over there, the Korean style, Oriental style rooftop, it is a place for the young people to do some practice about May 18 uprising. And then far over there, the black building over there, we have a kind of museum and then again memorial. They kept photos and then real some like guns, grenade or other devices of state violence. They kept it so you can see more about May uprising over there. One of the important aspects of the movement is not simply sacrifice, but the roles of survivors are really important. Those who died, they did what they could do in their capacity, but the survivors, we can do something in different ways. So this kind of cemetery was established because the survivors, they carried out movement to recover the honor to the victims. And then some people write novels, some people create dramas, some people created movies. So that through that kind of cultural activities, they promote May 18 spirit. So as a consequence, they create great Korean culture. And then the next generation learn from this experience. Without that kind of activities, people don't learn. Because survivors carry out different kind of activities, people learn, and then history develops to the positive side. Otherwise, history deteriorates. It goes somewhere wrong. So that should be, I think we have the message we can get from May uprising and then what the people did through their activities. in the other cemetery, older cemetery, there are people who died afterwards, not in May 18, but to commemorate and then to implement the spirit of May movement, they died. And then through that kind of involvement, history has come this much, as we have now. Thank you for your participation today.